Hello and welcome to Quiz Class. My name's Ellis and I'll be your host for today's general knowledge quiz. We have 100 questions in this quiz over a variety of topics, and we'd love you to let us know how many points you scored at the end of the video. You could be a champion, master, enthusiast, apprentice or an explorer. Let us know how you rank in the comments at the end. But without further ado, let's get started with question 1. Good luck and enjoy the quiz. Which alchemical process, considered a precursor to modern chemistry, involves the purification of gold through separation from silver using nitric acid? Calcination, parting, or transmutation? The answer is parting. 2. In Japanese aesthetics, what concept describes the beauty of imperfection and transience? Mono no aware, wabi-sabi, or yugen? The answer is wabi-sabi. 3. What architectural feature consists of a decorative knob or ornament placed at the peak of a dome or roof? Finial, quoin, or modillion? The answer is finial. Which blood vessel carries deoxygenated blood from the body to the right atrium of the heart? Pulmonary vein, vena cava, or aorta? The answer is the vena cava. Question 5. In phonetics, what term describes a consonant produced with the tongue touching the teeth? Palatal, dental, or velar? The correct answer is dental. Question 6. What is the name for the specialised microscopy technique that uses fluorescent dyes to visualise specific cellular components? Phase contrast microscopy, fluorescence microscopy, or electron microscopy? The answer is fluorescence. Question 7. Which philosophical doctrine holds that consciousness or mind is the only reality and that objects exist only as perceptions? Materialism, idealism, or empiricism? And the answer is idealism. Question 8. In textile manufacturing, what term describes the process of burning off protruding fibres from fabric to produce a smooth surface? Mercerizing, singeing, or calendaring? The answer is singeing. 9. What economic term describes a market structure characterised by a single buyer and many sellers? Monopsony, oligopsony, or bilateral monopoly? Monopsony, oligopsony, or bilateral monopoly? The answer is monopsony. Question 10. In geology, what term describes a rock formed by the deposition and consolidation of mineral or organic particles? Igneous, metamorphic, or sedimentary rock? The answer is sedimentary. Some of these questions are quite wordy. If you have no idea on the answer, it's always worth having a guess. Which specialised printing technique uses water-repelling ink on a flat surface to create images? Intaglio, lithography, or relief printing? The answer is lithography. 12. What linguistic term describes the loss of a vowel at the end of a word when the next word begins with a vowel? Syncope, elision, or apocope? The correct answer is Elysian. Question 13, unlucky for some. In theatre, what term describes a play that ridicules the conventions of a more serious work? Melodrama, burlesque, or tragicomedy? Will it be an unlucky question for you, or do you know the answer to question 13? It's burlesque. 14. Which neurological condition is characterised by the inability to perform learned movements despite having the physical ability to do so? Ataxia, apraxia, or agnosia? The answer is apraxia. In ancient Greek architecture, what term describes the triangular space above the entablature often filled with sculptures? Pediment, metope, or frieze? The answer is pediment. What is the term for a rhetorical device that uses an abstract concept as if it were a person? Metaphor, personification, or allegory? The answer is personification. Which mathematical principle states that in any connected network, the sum of the degrees of all vertices is equal to twice the number of edges? Handshaking lemma, Euler's formula, or graph colouring theorem? The answer is handshaking lemma. 18. In biochemistry, what process involves the addition of phosphate groups to a protein to alter its function? Glycosylation, phosphorylation, or methylation? The answer is phosphorylation. What is the name for the specialised cartographic projection that preserves direction from a central point? Mercator projection, azimuthal projection, or conic projection? The answer is azimuthal projection. 20. In musical composition, what technique involves transforming a melody by reversing the direction of all intervals? Retrograde, inversion, or augmentation? Remember, this quiz is out of 100. We are on question 20 currently. Hope you're doing well so far. The answer to question 20 is inversion. Which ancient Roman legal concept states that an accuser must prove guilt rather than the accused proving innocence? Habeas corpus, onus probandi, or stare decisis? The answer is onus probandi. 22. In theoretical physics, what principle states that no two fermions can occupy the same quantum state simultaneously? Heisenberg uncertainty principle, Pauli exclusion principle, or wave-particle duality? The correct answer is Pauli exclusion principle. What archaeological technique uses the measurement of accumulated radiation damage to determine the age of materials? Dendrochronology, thermoluminescence dating, or seriation? The answer is thermoluminescence dating. In topography, what term describes the space between pairs of letters that is adjusted to improve appearance? Leading, tracking, or kerning? The answer is kerning. Which philosophical paradox, formulated by Bertrand Russell, involves a barber who shaves all those who do not shave themselves? Socrates' paradox, Barber paradox, or Zeno's paradox? The answer is Barber paradox. In psychology, what defence mechanism involves attributing one's unacceptable thoughts or feelings to another person? Sublimation, projection, or reaction formation? The answer is projection. What botanical term describes plants that complete their life cycle in a single growing season? Perennial, annual, or biennial? The correct answer is annual. in classical mechanics, which principle states that when a body is in equilibrium, the sum of all forces acting on it equals zero. Newton's first law, static equilibrium, or conservation of momentum? The answer is static equilibrium. 29. What literary technique involves the use of a part to represent the whole or vice versa? Metonymy, synecdoche, or euphemism? The use of parts to represent the whole, the answer is synecdoche. In economics, what term describes goods for which demand increases as income rises? Inferior goods, normal goods, or Giffen goods? The answer is normal goods. Which specialised form of electromagnetic radiation consists of waves with frequencies between 300 MHz and 300 GHz? Infrared, microwaves, or ultraviolet? The answer is microwaves. 32. In art history, what term describes the decorative technique where small pieces of coloured glass or stone are set in mortar to create an image? Marquetry, tesserae, or mosaic? The answer is mosaic. 33. What linguistic process involves changing the form of a word by adding a prefix or suffix? Inflection, derivation, or compounding? The correct answer is derivation. In formal logic, which fallacy occurs when the premises of an argument presuppose the truth of the conclusion? Ad hominem, begging the question, or false dichotomy? The answer we're looking for is begging the question. What astronomical term describes the point in a celestial body's orbit when it is closest to the Earth? Perigee, apogee, or perihelion? I think that's perigee, apogee, or perihelion. The answer is a perigee. Well done if you got that one right. On to question 36. In gastronomy, what French cooking technique involves cooking food in a water bath at a precisely controlled temperature? Sous vide, flambé, or en papilote? A lovely spread of food there in the picture. Try not to be distracted by any hunger. The answer is sous vide. Well done if you got that one correct. Question 37. Which historical calendrical system used a 260-day cycle combining 20-day signs with 13 numbers? Julian calendar, Tzolk'in, or Hijri calendar? Apologies for any mispronunciations on this question. The answer is Tzolk'in. In mathematics, what term describes a sequence where each number is the sum of the two preceding ones? Arithmetic sequence, geometric sequence, or Fibonacci sequence? Arithmetic, geometric, or Fibonacci? The answer is a Fibonacci sequence. What philosophical concept associated with Friedrich Nietzsche describes the process of transvaluing all values? Categorical imperative, Übermensch, or Umwertung aller Wert? The correct answer is Umwertung aller Wert. In materials science, what property describes a material's ability to be drawn into wire? Malleability, ductility, or tensile strength? And the answer is ductility. Which anthropological term describes a system where marriage is restricted to members of the same social group? Exogamy, endogamy, or polyandry? Exogamy, endogamy, or polyandry? The answer is endogamy. In chemistry, what name is given to compounds that have the same molecular formula but differ in the arrangement of atoms? Isotopes, isomers, or allotropes? The correct answer is isomers. What literary device involves the use of a word or phrase that contradicts itself? Paradox, oxymoron, or antithesis? The answer is oxymoron. In genetics, what term describes the physical expression of a gene as distinguished from the genetic makeup? Genotype, phenotype, or karyotype? In genetics, what term describes the physical expression of a gene as distinguished from the genetic makeup? The answer is phenotype. 45. Which architectural element consists of a curved or pointed structural member spanning an opening? Buttress, arch, or column? The answer is an arch. In cognitive psychology, what effect describes improved memory for information that is related to oneself? Spacing effect, self-reference effect, or serial position effect? The answer is self-reference effect. What meteorological phenomenon occurs when a mass of warm, moist air rises over a mass of cold, dry air? Warm front, cold front, or occluded front? The answer is a warm front. In music theory, what term describes a chord progression that resolves from dominant to tonic? Authentic cadence, deceptive cadence, or a half cadence? The correct answer is authentic cadence. 49. What statistical concept measures the strength and direction of the linear relationship between two variables? Variance, correlation coefficient, or standard deviation? And the answer is correlation coefficient. Question 50. In art history, what technique creates the illusion of continuous narrative by depicting multiple scenes within a single frame? Trompe-l'oeil, continuous narrative, or chiaroscuro? And as I'm sure you've worked out, this is the halfway point in our quiz. The correct answer is continuous narrative. What specialised microscopy technique provides three-dimensional images by using a pinhole to eliminate out-of-focus light? Electron, confocal, or dark field? The correct answer is confocal. 52. In linguistics, what term describes the study of language meaning, including the relationship between signifiers and what they stand for? Pragmatics, semantics, or syntax? The answer is semantics. Question 53. Which philosophical concept developed by Edmund Burke describes the quality of greatness or power that inspires awe and terror? Sublime, catharsis, or mimesis? The answer is sublime. Question 54. In economics, what principle states that as production increases, the marginal cost of producing an additional unit eventually increases? Opportunity cost, law of diminishing returns, or Pareto efficiency? As production increases, the marginal cost increases. That's law of diminishing returns. What medical term describes the process of forming blood cells within bone marrow? Hematopoiesis, hemostasis, or hemolysis? The answer is hematopoiesis. In architecture, what term describes a concave moulding with a profile of approximately a quarter circle? Cavetto, torus, or scotia? The answer is cavetto. 57. Which literary technique involves the narrator directly addressing the reader? Stream of consciousness, apostrophe, or unreliable narrator? The answer is apostrophe. In quantum mechanics, what principle states that measuring one property of a particle makes other properties impossible to measure precisely? Pauli exclusion principle, Heisenberg uncertainty principle, or wave-particle duality? And the answer is Heisenberg uncertainty principle. What archaeological term describes the detailed recording of the exact position and context of artifacts? Typology, provenance, or provenience? The answer is provenience. 60. Which ancient engineering technique used a series of underground tunnels to transport water over long distances? Aqueduct, qanat, or cistern? The answer is qanat. Which rhetorical device involves the deliberate repetition of the same word or phrase at the end of successive clauses? Anaphora, epistrophe, or anadiplosis? The answer is epistrophe. 62. In formal logic, what rule allows one to infer if P then R from the premises, if P then Q, and if Q then R? Modus ponens, hypothetical syllogism, or disjunctive syllogism? That's all like another language to me. If you can work it out, very well done. The answer is hypothetical syllogism. 63. What psychological phenomenon occurs when a person's memory is influenced by information provided after an event? Cryptomnesia, post-event information effect, or déjà vu? The answer is post-event information effect. In art conservation, what technique involves stabilising damaged art without attempting to restore missing elements? Preservation, conservation, or restoration? The answer is conservation. Which philosophical position holds that ethical statements express emotional attitudes rather than factual claims? Ethical naturalism, emotivism, or moral realism? The answer is emotivism. In crystallography, what term describes the repeating three-dimensional pattern of atoms in a crystal? Lattice, unit cell, or crystal system? The correct answer is lattice. What astronomical phenomenon occurs when the Earth passes through the debris trail of a comet? Solar flare, meteor shower, or aurora borealis? When the Earth passes through the debris trail of a comet, the astronomical phenomenon that occurs is called a meteor shower. In geology, what term describes a rock formation that stores groundwater and allows its flow? Aquifer, aquitard, or aquiclude? The answer is aquifer. Which sociological concept, developed by Robert K. Merton, describes behaviour that conforms to cultural goals but rejects legitimate means? Ritualism, innovation, or retreatism? The answer is innovation. In cognitive psychology, what bias leads people to believe they knew an outcome was probable after it has occurred? Hindsight bias, availability heuristic, or confirmation bias? The answer is hindsight bias. What specialised printing technique involves cutting away parts of a block to create a raised image? Intaglio, relief printing, or planographic printing? The correct answer is relief printing. How are you getting on? We're on question 72 next. Hope you're keeping up with the quiz and enjoying it. In music theory, what term describes a scale consisting of 5 notes per octave? Chromatic, pentatonic, or diatonic? Pent being the potential giveaway, the answer is pentatonic scale. Which grammatical concept describes words that connect clauses or sentences? Conjunctions, prepositions, or interjections? The answer is conjunctions. 74. In astronomy, what term describes the point in the sky directly above an observer? Horizon, zenith, or nadir? The answer is zenith. What political philosophy advocates the elimination of hierarchical power structures in favour of self-management and free association? Libertarianism, anarchism, or socialism? The answer is anarchism. In textile arts, what technique involves manipulating threads to create a non-woven fabric with a needle? Felting, weaving, or braiding? The answer is felting. Which mathematical concept describes a function that equals its own derivative? Logarithmic function, exponential function, or polynomial function? The answer is exponential function. In biochemistry, what process involves the breakdown of large molecules into smaller ones without the use of oxygen? Aerobic respiration, anaerobic respiration, or photosynthesis? The answer is anaerobic respiration. What historical term describes the medieval practice of seeking forgiveness through self-inflicted physical pain? Asceticism, flagellation, or penance? The answer is flagellation. In architectural acoustics, what phenomenon occurs when sound waves reflect off surfaces and reach the listener at different times? Reverberation, diffraction, or interference? The answer is reverberation. Which philosophical position holds that the mind and body are fundamentally different substances? Monism, dualism, or physicalism? Monism, dualism, or physicalism? The answer is dualism. Well done if you got that one. Here's 82. In linguistics, what term describes the process of creating a new word by imitating or sound symbolism? Compounding, onomatopoeia, or borrowing? The answer is onomatopoeia. 83. What legal principle holds that a person cannot be tried twice for the same offence? Habeas corpus, double jeopardy, or presumption of innocence? The answer is double jeopardy. 84. In psychology, what phenomenon describes the tendency for people to follow others' actions in ambiguous situations? Groupthink, social proof, or bystander effect? The answer is social proof. Which historical term describes a system where serfs were bound to the land they worked? Feudalism, mercantilism, or manorialism? The answer is feudalism. 86. In cartography, what technique represents three-dimensional landscape features on a two-dimensional map? Projection, relief representation, or symbolization? The correct answer is relief representation. What meteorological instrument measures atmospheric pressure? Anemometer, barometer, or hygrometer? The answer is barometer. In literature, what narrative technique reveals characters' unspoken thoughts directly to the reader? Stream of consciousness, unreliable narrator, or epistolary form? The answer is stream of consciousness. 89. Which biological process involves the movement of water molecules across a semi-permeable membrane from an area of lower solute concentration to an area of higher solute concentration? Diffusion, osmosis, or active transport? The answer is osmosis. Very well done if you got that one right. 90. In art history, what technique involves scratching through a surface to reveal a lower layer of a contrasting colour? Sgraffito, impasto, or sfumato? The answer is sgraffito. What philosophical concept associated with Martin Heidegger refers to the mode of being that is peculiar to human existence? Dasein, Elan vital, or noumenon? The answer is Dasein. In geology, what term describes the process by which one tectonic plate moves under another? Abduction, subduction, or orogenesis? The correct answer is subduction. Which psychological effect describes the tendency to remember interrupted tasks better than completed ones? Serial position effect, Zeigarnik effect, or von Restorff effect? The answer is Zeigarnik effect. In chemistry, what term describes a substance that increases the rate of a chemical reaction without being consumed in the reaction? Reactant, catalyst, or precipitate? The correct answer is catalyst. What anthropological term describes marriage between a man and two or more women? Polyandry, polygamy, or endogamy? The answer is polygamy. 5 questions left, here's 96. In classical rhetoric, which of Aristotle's modes of persuasion appeals to the speaker's credibility or character? Logos, pathos, or ethos? Logos, pathos, or ethos? The answer is ethos or ethos. 97. What astronomical term describes the maximum angular separation between Mercury or Venus and the Sun as viewed from Earth? Opposition, conjunction, or elongation? The answer is elongation. In linguistics, what phenomenon occurs when a word changes its meaning to become more negative over time? amelioration, pejoration, or broadening? The answer is pejoration. 99. Which mathematical theorem states that every polynomial equation has as many complex roots as its degree? Abel-Ruffini theorem, fundamental theorem of algebra, or Fermat's last theorem? The answer is the fundamental theorem of algebra. Question 100. In philosophy of mind, what theory holds that mental states are not reducible to physical states but emerge from them? Eliminative materialism, emergentism, or epiphenomenalism? The answer is emergentism. And a bonus question to finish off. In molecular biology, what process involves the synthesis of RNA from a DNA template? Let us know the answer to that one in the comments, and whilst you're there, you can let us know which quiz class Einstein reward you have won. Champion, Master, Enthusiast, Apprentice, or Explorer. Based on your scores from 0 to 100, you can let us know how you ranked in the comments below. Thanks a lot for playing this quiz. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified on all of our upcoming videos. And in the meantime, if you can't wait for new videos, there are plenty of videos already uploaded, so why not jump straight into another quiz right now? My name's Ellis and I've been your host. Thanks again for joining us today at Quiz Class. We'll see you next time.